Welcome back, Playmakers. I'm your host, Riley Kramer. The Playmakers team has been all over the map this past week, covering a variety of different sports. From MLB playoffs with Gus and Andrew and Big 12 Media Day with Liv and Maya, all the way to Fantasy Suite with Caleb and Motorsports with Felix. All this and more on Playmakers.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome back, Playmakers. I'm Jackson Besdick here with Caroline Soro, and we've got another terrific show for you this week.
That's right, we've got everything from the WNBA to F1 racing today. But before we get to all that, we got to hear from coaches around the Big 12 at Big 12 Media Day on Thursday. And for the 10th time in the last 11 years, the coaches picked Kansas basketball as their preseason favorites.
Let's kick it over to Maya and Liv, who were on the scene in Kansas City for the Big 12 Media Day recap.
Welcome back, Playmakers. I am Liv Misek.
I'm Maya Peterson.
And guess where we are at? We are at Big 12 Media Day. To start off day one, we have women's basketball. What are you looking forward to?
Look, there's a lot on edge. Everyone knows I'm all about women's basketball, so I'm looking forward to see, of course, the new coach at Baylor.
Right.
Seeing a little bit more of that Texas fight from Texas Vic Schaefer. And last but not least, of course, we're here for KU women's basketball to see what Brandon Schneider can give us a sneak peek into the season. And, of course, the players will also be here to talk about what they're looking forward to.
Yeah, and so we have a pretty busy schedule today, a few interviews and a press conference and
everything and more that you can think of for Big 12 Media to make sure we're prepared for the actual basketball season. So let's get ready to do day one, and we'll be back at the end.
I'm most excited about is just the fact that I have 14 teammates who are bought in for the season as much as anyone, who are so excited. They work hard every single day. They want the best for not just themselves, but they want the best for their teammates.
All right, Playmakers, we've wrapped up day one of Big 12 for women's basketball. We learned a lot of new information and kind of got emotional when KU stepped up and Holly started to talk about her time at KU, and she's leading into her third season. What did you think about Holly's comments on this upcoming season?
You know, I thought she made some good comments. She's what I've learned about Holly over the last 3 years here, she's very honest.
Oh, yeah.
And she had mentioned that this, being her third year, this is the best she's ever felt about a season. And the chemistry, which we saw at late night, the chemistry on the court was really amazing to see. But she's also said the chemistry off the court is amazing. So, yeah, I thought Holly did a great job today just being honest with everybody. This is just day one. Women's basketball. Tomorrow we are looking forward to day two with men's basketball in Big 12. So I'm very excited.
Same. I think the best point is, like you said, we're learning players on and off the field. And the best thing, a part of Playmakers, is whatever we learn and whatever we get to see, you all get to see as well. So stay tuned for our content for tomorrow, day two.
I'm excited. I like our team. I think we've added some experience. We've added some athleticism, hopefully some shooting, and the league was so terrific last year. And of course, with Baylor being the elite of the elite, I think this year's league has an opportunity to be every bit as good as what it has been in the past, and I know everyone's looking forward to that challenge.
All right, well, Liv, we've wrapped up Big 12 Media Day. It's been an experience both days. Now, the last question I have for you is, what was your biggest takeaway for the whole entire, day one and day two?
I would say my biggest takeaway is honestly just seeing how hungry these athletes, both men and women, are, to win a Big 12 tournament. And, that's obviously why we're here, Big 12 Media Day. But these people have personalities and, they love basketball and they love the game, and that's what they're here for.
Yes. My biggest takeaway is so funny. Mine came from yesterday from the Texas coach, Vic Schaefer. I thought this is very important, and it kind of goes for men and women's. But he talked about the position of a point guard and how your team plays as hard or as soft as your point guard plays. And he broke it down to say, if a point guard comes out and they're playing soft, your team is going to either play as soft as they're playing or softer, and vice versa. If you come out aggressive and strong, your team is going to do the same. And every other coach has talked about their team. That's what we're getting. We're getting leadership is the biggest thing coming into this season, because we know last year some teams fell due to the fact that there was no sense of leadership. So hearing that, I was kind of like, oh, wow. The Big 12 is really the best conference because we have the biggest leaders, the best coaches.
Yeah.
And all around, everybody's ready to compete.
It's honestly really cool. Today with the men's coaches, they all have so much respect for each other. When they were doing one-on-one interviews, they would always refer to each other while they're coaching.
Well, that's all we have for Big 12 Media. For Playmakers, I'm Maya Peterson.
And I'm Liv Misek.
Now back to you in the studio.
I don't know about you, but listening to everyone at Big 12 Media Day has me even more excited for basketball season. I saw the AP poll drop earlier this week as well, and KU basketball is projected as the number 3 seed right now. With 4 out of 5 of last year's starters returning in a pretty stacked recruiting class, I wouldn't be surprised if that 3 seed remains consistent all season.
This is actually the most talented roster that we've had in many years. I'm even putting them over Doak and Dot's team that was the consensus number 1 seed before COVID hit. In my opinion, this is 100% a championship or bust season. It's been almost 14 years. It's time to hang a banner.
And even though basketball season is on the way, other fall sports here at KU are wrapping up. Kansas cross country closed out the season at the competitive pre-national invitational last weekend. 18 Jayhawks were recognized for the all Big 12 cross-country team ahead of the Big 12 championship, which will be on October 29th in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
The KU football team continues to struggle as they suffered another big loss to Texas Tech last week, 41-14. It was really frustrating getting embarrassed on your homecoming weekend, and it doesn't look like it will get better anytime soon. The Jayhawks will face Oklahoma and Oklahoma State these next 2 weeks, who are 2 undefeated teams ranked in the AP Top 10. Let's hope the boys can at least compete in one of these games and try to build momentum into really the only game of the year that matters, and that's November 6th against the Kansas State Wildcats. However, my boy Felix has got a lot more exciting things to report about with Formula One racing heating up after the break.
From adversity, we rose. We made history and became pioneers, voyagers, champions, Jayhawks. And when our chant rises, haunting and hallowed, Jayhawks are telling the world what's near. Victory.
Roll the drums, cowboy, because it's officially Formula One race weekend in Austin, Texas. First, a quick recap of last race in Istanbul, Turkey. The Silver Arrows driver Valtteri Bottas won his 10th race of his career, his first win in 2021. The finish was followed by the Red Bull of Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. Also, I just want to point out this amazing Red Bull livery that they used in last race. The why is to celebrate the partnership with Honda, their Japanese engine supplier. It was meant to run in Japan, but since the race there was canceled due to COVID restrictions, they decided to use it in Turkey. One of the best liveries I have ever seen in Formula One. Now, onto this week's race. The Circuit of the Americas is a 3.4-mile track southeast of Austin. With top speeds of 200 miles per hour, this is a very technical track, where a tiny mistake when taking the apex can cost a lot of time. Speaking of that, let's take a look at what you should pay attention when watching the race this weekend. The first turn, which is this one right here, it's very elevated. From the bottom of the straight all the way to the top, there's about a 40-meter height difference. This is really hard because the left turn right here becomes like a kind of like a blind turning to the left. So watch out for this one, especially on the first lap. Apex on the turn number 3. This is important, especially in qualifying, because if the driver doesn't hit it right here, we'll lose a lot of time on the snaky part. Next part is the straight. This is a very, very, very long straight. So right here where the DRS zone is located, you should see a lot of overtakes, especially here on turn 12. There's a lot of time for the cars to catch up to each other. And the next section you should pay attention to is the turn 16 through the 18. This reminds a lot of turn 6 in Turkey. If the driver goes out just a bit, they can lose the traction, they can go out, they can spin, so watch out for that one. The fight among the drivers is also something you should pay attention to. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen is the #1 fight that we should always look at, as the championship contenders come to this race only 6 points apart. But I'll tell you what, also keep an eye for Valtteri Bottas. On the last 4 races, the Finns scored more points than any other driver on the grid, including Lewis and Max. That could spice up the fight for the podium. Personally, I believe that Lewis Hamilton will be the favorite for this week. He won 5 of the last 8 Formula 1 races held in Austin. For the podium, I would say that Hamilton is going to be the first one, Verstappen is going to be second, and Bottas is going to be third. What do you think will happen? Tag the Playmakers on Twitter and with your podium guesses. You can watch Formula 1 on ESPN. The qualifying starts at 4 p.m. Saturday, and the race starts at 2 p.m. on Sunday. Now, let's hand it over to Riley to discuss all things Ben Simmons and 76ers.
Philadelphia 76ers player Ben Simmons has been a hot topic in sports lately, as his behavior and attitude in recent weeks has gotten him removed from practice and suspended from their game against New Orleans Pelicans. Simmons was thrown out of practice by head coach Doc Rivers after he refused to do a drill. He was also said to be distracted by his phone during practice and wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt rather than their normal practice uniforms. Simmons' attitude has affected how many people view him, despite the amount of talent he thinks he might have. Not only his lack of professionalism off the court, but placing blame on the situation the team has put him in. Joel Embiid, former KU basketball player and current 76er, expressed the lack of feelings he has towards Ben Simmons and his actions. The 76ers have said they would be willing to trade Ben Simmons, but are looking for a playmaker in return. Congratulations to the Chicago Sky on their big win against the Phoenix Suns this past week in the WNBA Championship. Check out our Instagram, Twitter, Playmakers KU, to watch Maya Peterson's top 3 plays of the series. Now let's kick it over to Caleb Jenneret for our weekly Fantasy Suite Report.
Well, welcome back to your favorite fantasy segment. Today I'll be grading another fantasy team, this time a member of the KU rowing team, Lily Hinnick. And by the looks of it, she definitely knows what she's doing. So starting off with your QBs, Pat Mahomes. Could be a top QB on a week-to-week basis. Can't go wrong with you of Mahomes at your QB. Your running back is Ezekiel Elliott. Zeke has turned it up this year, currently a top 5 back in the league, averaging almost 20 points a game in that potent Dallas offense. Your running back 2 is Aaron Jones. Once again, top 10 back, as Aaron Jones is currently the running back 6, averaging 18 points per game. Your running backs are definitely set for this season. Your wide receiver 1 is Antonio Brown. Brown is Tom Brady's favorite target, as he averages a team-high 8 targets a game and gets about 19 points. Laviska Shenault is your wide receiver 2. Okay, here's the low point of your team, but honestly, it could be worse. Shenault averages about 9 points per game and could definitely be replaced by a few pieces on your bench, but we'll get to that later. Your tight end is Dalton Schultz. One of the top waiver ads of the year, Schultz has become Dak Prescott's security blanket, averaging 6 targets and 14 points per game. Currently, the tight end 3. Your flex is Darrell Henderson. I thought you were set with your top 2 running backs, but then out of nowhere, you have another top 10 back. Henderson has been huge for the Rams this year, averaging over 18 points per game and carrying that workload. Your kicker is Brandon McManus, a serviceable kicker for sure, not too much to say. And then the Raiders defense, not a top defense, but once again, serviceable for sure. Now let's take a look at that bench. Tom Brady is a top 5 QB on your bench. Tony Pollard is a safety blanket if Zeke ever goes down. Jerry Jeudy, when he comes back, has a lot of potential as a decent wide receiver too. And then Gronk is a top tight end when he returns. You definitely have to make a decision between him and Schultz pretty soon. All in all, the team is by far the best I've reviewed so far. It's nearly perfect, but you have a glaring hole at receiver too, but easily fixable, as I think you have 2 good options on your bench to fill that role. As it stands, your team receives an A- with Shenault, but if you put Moody or Jeudy in when he becomes healthy, easily an A. After the break, we will head back over to Jackson and Caroline to talk about the MLB playoffs.
No one takes drugs expecting to become addicted. You should know that addiction can happen to anyone because it's a disease of the brain. That also means recovery is possible. Addiction doesn't have to be permanent, and the state of Kansas is ready to assist you in every step of the way. Visit findtreatment.gov or call the Kansas Substance Abuse Referral Line at 866-645-8216.
The MLB postseason this year has been everything we hoped for. From walk-off bombs to masterful pitching, we've had it all.
To put it simply, postseason baseball has been a wild ride this year. The Dodgers punched their ticket into the postseason with a walk-off wildcard win over the Cardinals and have managed to stay alive in the NLCS so far. The Dodger offense was absolutely rolling last night, which was the key to winning Game 5. Chris Taylor hit 3 homers and had 6 ribbies, while A.J. Pollock sent another 2 over the wall to cap off the Dodgers' 11-2 victory over the Braves. Game 6 is tomorrow at 4 p.m. in Atlanta, so let's see what happens.
Over in the AL, the Boston Red Sox and the Houston Astros have been throwing haymakers at each other for the past week. Houston took the ever-so-important Game 5 in Boston on Wednesday and looked to clinch a trip to the World Series tonight back at home. Other than Game 1, each game has been a blowout, which has made for an interesting series. Each squad has gone back and forth, taking their turns at pounding the other, while both lineups looking unstoppable at times. It'll be interesting to see tonight if this changes and if we get a really exciting Game 6.
Like Jackson said, we're excited for the Red Sox-Astros game tonight, but we can't give too much away before Gus and Andrew break down all things MLB playoffs. Gus, what are you guys thinking?
The MLB Championship Series are heating up with both the American League and National League having exciting moments all the way throughout.
Yeah, Gus, it was exciting even before the championship series began, and I'm thinking specifically of the NLDS, the Dodgers, the Giants. Not the ending I would have hoped for, but I'm excited to see how all this plays out.
Yeah, no question about that. It should be a really exciting series. While I have watched both series nearly in full, I have been passionate for my hometown Boston Red Sox, which unfortunately have dropped the last 2 games after leading 2-1. But for now, let's take a look into the American League Championship Series. After the Red Sox got past the defending American League champion Tampa Bay Rays in 4 games, their next challenge was not going to be any easier, having to score off against the Houston Astros. With the Astros leading the series 3-2 heading into Game 6 tonight in Houston, the Red Sox need run production more than anything after putting up a mere 3 runs in the last 2 games. As always, another key to the rest of this series will come down to pitching. Whichever team can silence the opposing team's bats will have the best chance to come out on top. Now, in terms of the pitching matchup tonight, it will be a rematch of Game 2, Nathan Eovaldi versus Luis Garcia. In the first go-around, Garcia struggled, giving up 5 earned runs on 2 hits and 1+ innings, whereas Eovaldi pitched 5 1/3 while only giving up 3 earned runs. Personally, despite the Astros winning the last 2 games, I think Eovaldi will win the battle once again, and the Red Sox will respond with a Game 6 victory.
Yeah, Gus, as you alluded to, it's all about the run production. The Sox have done quite the good job early on, but as you can see, the last 2 games, 3 runs in 2 games is just not going to cut it. But moving on, though, the National League Series is in a familiar spot. Game 6 tomorrow, as Caroline mentioned earlier, the Braves a game up on the Dodgers. So through 3 games, it's all been decided by 1 run. But as of late, it's been quite the disparity, a split decision. The Braves in Game 4, 9-2, then the Dodgers last night, 11-2. But we can't talk about runs all day, but we can talk about keeping the bus moving. One guy hits and the cycle continues. When I think about that, I think about the Royals in 2015, that championship run. Just one guy comes up and just, again, keep the line moving, keep getting runs on the board. So it's all about getting that whole team involved. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, in Game 4, 3 guys homered for Atlanta with a total of 4 home runs, and they scored in spurts, whereas the Dodgers had 1 spurt, 1 inning with 2 guys involved. Then in Game 5, the exact opposite in the Dodgers' favor. 5 home runs from the Dodgers, including 3 from Chris Taylor again, as Caroline talked about just moments ago. What can you say, though? Freddie Freeman, home run early, and then just silent the rest of the game. So there you go. Andrew Lynn's key to success. Keep that line moving. What do you say, Gus?
Yeah, there's no question about that. Chris Taylor had a monster game, and it was awesome to see what he was able to do, the 3 home runs. Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that both Game 6s will be fun and entertaining, with the winners heading off to the World Series. But that is all the time we have for today in baseball. And after this, Liv Misek will have a special KU women's basketball announcement. Stay tuned.
Have a nice day. You too. a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Make someone's day. Pay it forward.
Breaking news, the former University of Kansas women's basketball coach, Marion E. Washington, who is in the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, guided the Jayhawks to 17 20-win seasons and 11 NCAA tournaments during her time at Kansas as head coach from 1973 to 2004. This afternoon, the University of Kansas is honoring her. Let's take a look at what current coach Brandon Snyder says about Washington's dedication.
But you're doing something special to honor Coach Marion Washington this fall. So can you share that?
Well, I think Coach Washington was such a trailblazer, and I go back to just the way I grew up, and being a coach's kid, and my dad was friends with so many others that really helped elevate the game of women's basketball, and I coached at Stephen F. Austin, where Sue Gunner was such a big figure, and we just felt like it was really necessary to honor Coach Washington in any way that we could, and continue to connect the great heritage of our program during her time there, and the past players with the current players, and so we've made some renovations to our I don't guess any of us really have locker rooms anymore, but our suite area, we're going to dedicate that and name that after her.
Follow along on our Instagram at PlaymakersKU as we visit the new Marion E. Washington Women's Basketball Suite. Now to Claire with our 2-minute warning.
What's up, Playmakers? I'm Claire Decatur here in the heart of Lawrence, Kansas, Massachusetts Street, here to ask you guys some tailgating questions.
And I'm Jackson Reed, here to ask, what are your tailgating essentials and what games they like to play while you're tailgating? So let's go.
So you're tailgating, okay? What are some essentials you have to have?
My best friends, for sure. You need cornhole or bags, whichever one you call it.
You need your drinks, your soda, apple juice. You know what you're thinking.
8 cases of beer, and you have to have about 200 hamburgers and 200 hot dogs.
Sugar cookies, a car. Your friends, your beer, your koozies.
You need really random things. I feel like the more random objects that you have in the car, the better. So a random blanket that someone's grandma made has to be in the back.
A grill, blankets.
Collapsible propane grill. You have to have a pop-up tent. You have to have a 55-inch TV.
And just really having a good time. I mean, it's all about, that's what sports is really cool. It brings everybody together. It's what unites us all.
Beer and ice.
There you go. What games do you play while you're passing time before the big game? Anything specific?
Bags, whatever they got. Pick on the people that are dressed funny, that kind of thing.
Honestly, me and my friends, we just take pictures for Snapchat, Instagram, social media, and we just talk. We just hang out.
You could play hot potato or volleyball. We've played dice before, and honestly, just playing some good music and sitting in a group.
I feel like some common ones are beer pong, flip cup, boom cup, those, typical games.
We don't really play games. We drink beer and talk Jayhawk football.
We have one question. So, do you tailgate at all? No. Oh.
Well, Playmakers, that's all we have for this week's show. But before you leave, make sure to follow us on social media at PlaymakersKU. Next week, we will have an exciting segment from Made by Women in Sports and Instagram coverage for the women's basketball dedication to Coach Washington. Make sure to stay tuned for that and all your other sports needs. Have a good weekend, and remember, it's not about the games you played, but the plays you made. Rock chalk.